Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special edition of The Global Lawyer. This is episode 10, and it couldn't come at a better time. March, the month dedicated to honoring women around the world. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with someone whose career path is anything but conventional. Few people get to write story in their field. Our guest today is one of them. Nicole Dyskant. She has built a groundbreaking trajectory, moving seamlessly from practicing law in the traditional financial market to the cutting edge of fintech, regulatory compliance, and digital assets. With a deep understanding of capital markets, financial services regulation, and emerging technologies, she has been at the forefront of shaping the legal landscape for digital assets. Her journey is a testament to resilience, expertise, and innovation, making her the perfect guest for this milestone episode. Nicole, hello, welcome. What a pleasure having you here with us today.
Hello, Marina. Hello, everyone. The privilege is all mine. Such a pleasure to be here, especially this month, March, that we are celebrating the Women's Month and everything that comes with the month, right? It's not only a month, it's the whole year. It's also my birthday, so it's a super special month for me. I'm super honored. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm super excited for our conversation.
Oh, great.
Thank you so much for the kind words about myself. Really,
no, these are
I'm not sure if I deserve all that, but I'll definitely.
This is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes, you are amazing. So your career path. Let's start with your trajectory, and then we're going to zoom in as we talk. Your career is truly inspiring. You started in law school at PUC, Rio de Janeiro, and then you rapidly advanced from a junior lawyer at Agora CTVM to holding a strategic C-level position at Bradesco at just 26. You were 26 years old. So from there, you co-founded two pioneering companies and became a key figure in digital assets and regulatory compliance. And I would say that you are practically part of the history of the birth and development of digital asset regulation, right? So walk us through these pivotal moments and the decisions that shaped this amazing journey of yours.
Sure thing. It's so nice to hear like you framing like this, because it gives me, such important moments of my career as a flash. Yeah, so I think I was in a very I was well positioned in the right moment, right? For both the birth of compliance for before, when I started back in beginning of the year 2000s, right? Compliance was actually starting in Brazil. And banks, of course, they had compliance since before that, especially Bradesco, because Bradesco has no control ownership. So actually, it's a actual corporation, right? It's a true corporation. So because of that, it operates a lot within compliance rules, governance, and internal control. So that was my school. And that after that, the decades that later on, it cascades for all financial institutions and asset management firms within the capital markets and the financial market in Brazil, something that I've learned in the bank, right, and in the broker-dealer. So I think I was, again, in a privileged position to learn a lot. So Bradesco was my school. Like you said, I was super early in, very young age with a lot of responsibilities. I had, teams in São Paulo, in Rio for compliance, legal. Also, I've worked for product and securitization. So I like to say I gave like a 360 degrees round within all the financial products and with the compliance in mind, right, embedded with me in the legal, because I'm a lawyer. So I even the times that I worked for product and business, I was always focused in compliance and regulation as the base of everything. So I think I took that as an opportunity to develop my first company, the first I brought from that was actually an entrepreneurial movement when I brought ACA compliance group to Brazil. And again, I think I surfed this wave about compliance becoming a reality for asset management firms, because until then, and now I'm jumped for 2012, 13, and CVM launched the rule that required investment managers to have a compliance, because before that it was only the administrators, right, the banks, and that came into force into 2015. So so I was learning with the Americans, former SEC and CFTC staff that built ACA compliance group in the US and then expanded globally. And I brought to Brazil and launched the ACA compliance Brazil. So I learned a lot from them, and I could implement this into the Brazilian market in a very opportunistic way, time-sensitive way, because compliance was just the beginning for this industry. And then after that, I also had a privilege to work with Marcelo Trindade, a former director and commissioner, right, and the chairman at CVM. And all together, the learnings from Bradesco, the learnings from Marcelo, and the learnings from ACA, I could launch my first, and that was my first entrepreneurial, real entrepreneurial movement to co-found a Compliasset, which was recently acquired by SINQIA, publicly traded company. Actually, now they closed their capital stock because they were acquired by Evertech, and a US company. But then into 2023, that when we sold it, it was a public company. So it was a very nice story, right? From the beginning, my co-founder and I, which is Dan, my husband, we did it because we saw this pain coming. Like I said, it was at the beginning, I saw this rule coming into force with ACA compliance, and then, it becoming a need for my clients, the investment managers. I developed compliance manuals for them. That was like 200 pages manuals. And they said, okay, that's super nice, but now you have to help me to implement this, to actually put these words into life. And so Dan, my husband and co-founder, is a serious entrepreneur. He's actually in his fourth company right now. I'm going to arrive that in this new chapter of he and I were co-founding another company, but that's another topic. So we did it because we saw this pain. We were in a very well position, as I was insider, and then we transformed this into a software for this regulated market. And it happened exactly the same within the digital assets industry, right? So I moved to the digital assets space before the M&A of Compliasset. So I kind of gave a step. I left my own company, and that was one of my most difficult decisions in my life, when I took a position at Hashdex as chief legal and compliance and also public affairs for them. It was a very difficult, but now I can say super right decision, right call, because again, it was the beginning of the regulation for digital assets, still in the beginning, right? But we are now, I moved to Hashdex in 2021. So I saw the exact same thing happening that I saw in compliance, right? So it seems like a movie to me that I'm seeing again. So yeah, because for the regulation for digital assets, it's so connected to the regulation for the capital markets and the financial markets, right? It's actually the base of everything. So my background helped me a lot to gain this learning curve pretty fast and in a smooth way. That yes, I could help this evolving landscape, right, to become more mature. So I speak a lot with regulators around the globe, and also, took the business opportunities with companies that I help my clients to build all this in this melting pot that it's amazing.
Wow, what a ride. So you weren't just following the evolution of digital assets regulation. You were right there in the trenches, shaping as it unfolded.
Exactly. A lot of war battles, a lot of war stories.
Yes, I can imagine. Yes. Wow. So, and then having studied at New York Law School and obtained international certifications in financial services and compliance, you've built strong connections in regulatory law worldwide, right? So how has this global perspective influenced your work in Brazil? And what key lessons have you brought back from your experience in the US and the other jurisdictions?
Sure. So like a lot, right? So I couldn't even express how important this was and is for me, right? Because I do this kind of this combination of learning from the Brazilian experience as a first, right, as firsthand. So that's my background. And then I went to the US. I went to New York Law School for this course that you mentioned, this financial services law, which was very important and very actually it was key for me to bring ACA compliance group. And like I said, I brought a lot of the experience that the Americans developed. They are much mature. They were back then and still are more mature than we are in terms of compliance and all the regulations that come from the SEC and the CFTC, right? And not only the US, but also Europe, because ACA was a very super international and global consulting firm. So I think this both ways, right? From bringing knowledge and content from Brazil to abroad and from abroad to Brazil, that's something that I used to do in the past with compliance, and I'm doing it again with digital assets. So yeah, so now I'm super exposed to the global scene, right? I've started in my advisory roles for Fireblocks and Taxbit for LATAM, but quickly expanded to global. So and that's super important, Marina, because it's all connected, right? So of course, each country has its own regulations and its own rules, its specifics, but the risks that needs to be addressed by the rules and all the concerns, and the trend is all these regulations to be harmonized in a way.
Yes, and it's because it is no longer just a domestic conversation here. It's a global. It's like a global chess game. Yes, and this there's this first-hand exposure to different legal frameworks must be a massive advantage for you. And
yes.
And it really underscores how interconnected compliance has become across jurisdictions, right?
Yes, I would say, I would highlight that for digital assets, that's much more important because, compliance, of course, there's a lot of exchange of information between the regulators and the authorities, and they probably are aware of the FATCA and also the other framework from OECD that requires authorities to exchange information. So the trend, and of course the goal, is to close the windows for regulatory arbitrage, and that's true for the what we call the TradFi, the traditional financial market. But it's
the TradFi,
more that we call it TradFi in the crypto space. But it's actually much more important for the evolving regulations for the digital asset space, because digital assets is borderless by nature, right? So there's no the whole idea of blockchain and DLT is actually to be distributed in a way that you can trade in whatever place from whatever place you are. So the regulators have like even harder challenge to regulate this, because it's hard for you to limit in terms of
It's difficult
frontiers
to,
and
draw the line. Yes,
draw these lines, right? So
yeah.
so that's the challenge, and I think that's also the beauty of me being, you know, all around, and it doesn't come without some pains, of course. You know, I travel a lot, and but it actually pays out, because I'm able to see, you know, the different conversations around Europe, which is kind of more advanced, because they have a MiCA regulation for digital assets, service providers. The US, of course, it's always very important in this space, and Brazil as a leader actually within LATAM. So it's all interconnected, and I'm actually feel very blessed and lucky to be in this position.
Oh, that's just amazing. And you co-founded two companies, as you mentioned, Compliasset and ACA Compliance Brazil, right? And
True.
And it seems that both of them have played crucial roles in regulatory compliance. And this placed you at the intersection of law, technology, and entrepreneurship. So what gaps in the market did you identify at the time? And how did you work to fill them?
Cool. Yeah. So I feel, you know, legal ops, the need for technology for the legal departments and compliance departments to kind of fill this gap between, you know, what they need to do that comes from the rivers from the laws and regulations and the actual implementation, which is a lot of the compliance space, right? I like to say that the compliance is a kind of an intersection within operations and the legal department, right? Because you actually have to put stuff into the real life that is written on the laws. So that's why I first developed Compliasset, right? Because Compliasset is actually help firms to implement their compliance obligations, their internal controls, in a way that it's all that you create accountability, it's all searchable, everything in a single source of truth for these departments to navigate. So I think the what we identified, Marina, is that teams, either legal compliance or now that I'm focused more in the regulatory and policy side, they all lack not only staff, but ways to implement this obligations and rules in a way that they can make their life easier, and you know, don't lose stuff in the middle of like conversations, Slacks, emails, spreadsheets. So that's a lot of legal ops role, and that's why reg tech are so popular right now, right?
Now
Because
translate reg tech for our audience. Yes,
yeah.
reg tech for our audience, it's regulatory.
So there's technologists tech tools developed to implement specific rules and regulations, right?
Great.
So we did it for compliance first, and now we are doing it again. And that's I think it's the first time I speak about this publicly.
Oh, this is wonderful. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we are building again. Dan and I, my co-founder, and I, we are doing Regdoor, which will be a combination of a SaaS, a software as a service, and the AI agent for regulatory and policy teams to navigate all this evolving regulatory landscape global-wise. So it's going to be global. It's not only for Brazil. And also, again, the same idea of tracking interactions with regulators and you know, leveraging stakeholders as associations, service providers, legal service providers, advisors, and stuff. So it's a kind of a single source of truth for one-stop shop for regulatory and policy affairs. We are super excited with the second journey. And like I said, it's the third company. It's actually the fourth, because I also own the Dyskant law firm, which is a small boutique.
Yes, that's true.
But that's a consulting firm, right? But I like the idea of you know, building companies, and it's funny because I never thought myself like this, but today I see the beauty of, you know, of course I like to work for big corporations and my work as advisor to crypto unicorns is so unique and so fantastic. But the idea of building your own company and solving a problem with something that I like to think that I am a insider, because I understand the pains from my clients and from the market, and to build a solution that I know will help firms.
Yes, and that's the hallmark of a true entrepreneur. So spotting the gaps before anyone else, and then building the solutions that redefine the industry. It's fascinating, and how regulation and technology, which often seem to be playing a catch-up with each other, because you have technology and you have regulation, and technology is always at the forefront, ahead of regulation, and they actually come together when someone like you comes to bridge these two worlds. And in the crypto market, okay, it has developed dramatically from its early days as a decentralized experiment to a space increasingly shaped by institutional players and regulations. Can you tell us about this evolution, because you were part of it? So how did it start? What major shifts have occurred? And where does regulation fit into this process?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and that's very connected again to the whole RegDoor idea. First of all, like the crypto ethos, right? The idea of decentralization is actually, I would put it in an opposite side from regulation per nature, right? Like I said, like it was built borderless, and firms explored a lot the fact that the digital assets were completely unregulated in the beginning. But turns out that people use these instruments as either payment instruments, the stable coins, which are growing a lot, or investment. For example, Bitcoin and Ethereum. There are some other use cases, for example, utility tokens and NFTs, which are more related, to digital arts and a way of also expressing property. But the main use for crypto is actually related to payments or investments. And guess what? That's something that the regulators concerned because of the consumer protection, because of the whole possibility of using this to commit frauds and tax evasions, and so they came out there and said, okay, I think we need to regulate it the same way, with the kind of same ideas that we regulated 50 years ago or more, the financial market and the capital markets, right? So that's why I feel like I would say pretty much most of the countries are doing some type of regulation around crypto and around the service providers who are serving this market. So you probably will notice that most of countries that are coming with regulation, not necessarily that they regulate the technology, they regulate the crypto asset itself, the digital asset itself, but they regulate the service providers, what we call VASPs, virtual asset service providers. So it's actually a regulation related to the entities and to the activity, and not the asset itself, the technology itself. Okay.
Yes, maybe because of the because of the investor. It has to be safe. It has to be secure.
Yes, and because the way that you can prevent this and kind of address these risks that they are concerned, they can achieve that by regulating the actors instead of regulating the assets, right? So,
Right.
and also because it's very hard for you to regulate an evolving technology. If you say, for example, you can like try to regulate something that it's a pretty fast evolving, then you got to say something, the regulation tomorrow, the builders and developers will do a different thing, and then guess what? The regulation is going to be outdated. So it's very hard for regulators to actually regulate the digital asset, and also because of this nature about everything being in expressed and decentralized in the blockchain, that it's not something that they can, as opposed to the traditional assets and the currencies, the fiat currencies, that the regulators can actually put their hands on, and and within their country borders. So that was an extra challenge for them, but I feel like they solve it in a very nice way, very intelligent way, about applying most of the concepts and the structure, the governance, the compliance, the risk measures to the actors that are actually offering services to the investors, to the retail public within this space. That's the main concept.
Very interesting. Yes, this is I never thought of that.
It's cool, right?
It's very, yes, because it involves so many people and so many agents. So you have to pick one to target the rules and.
Exactly. So most of the countries, and that varies around country by country, but most of them are picking either the central bank's regulators for this type of VASP regulation, which is the case of Brazil. Some of them, you appoint the SEC, the Capital Market Authority, which is case of Argentina, for example. They just came out with a regulation by the Argentinian SEC, the CNV. Some countries, for example, like the Arab Emirates in Dubai, for example, they created a new regulatory body, which is FARA, specific to regulate the virtual assets. El Salvador did the same. They created this CNAD for a very, very unique regulation of digital assets and tokenization. So it depends on the country, but most of the countries will either appoint one existing regulation, which can be prudential regulator, or the capital markets regulator, or creating in some few cases that they are creating a new specific regulatory body. So it's fascinating because at the end of the day, you're gonna have a lot of what we've seen along those years in the TradFi. You are now seeing this kind of being replicated and reinterpreted.
Yes, and adapted
for a new market. Yeah.
So interesting. Yes, and it requires knowledge and technique, and it's
an education for these regulators, right?
Because an education, yes,
super new for them. So that's why where I come into place, and me, of course, and many other people that are helping this pushing this market, right? Which is like bringing information, and also I'm not like very into that technology, right? The actual the more technical stuff, but I can connect to people that are. So that's part of the work that I most like to do, which is bringing people to talk to regulators and seeing how this come into the regulation, and kind of helping them to shape this landscape.
Yes, because it is essential. Without this, it would be impracticable and ineffective at the end of the day. It's in practice.
Exactly. And now with Regdor, we want to connect regulators with the private sector, and also being like this huge provider of content, and also a connector, right? Because both private sector and regulators have this pain about monitoring all this all these regulations and upcoming regulations, consultations, guidelines, and also finding who is within the system. For example, like I told you, how do I know if I want to go to Argentina, if I should talk to the central bank in Argentina, or if I should talk to the
securities
CNB,
authority? Yes.
That's what we're going to bring very easy and connected ways.
And it's already in operating the Regdor, and how what is it at the final step? How
Today is actually a very special day for us because we've just got the news from the dev team and the CTO that we got the MVP ready, the first 0.0 version, right? MVP
Oh,
is a
wow.
viable product, yeah. Which is not actually the tool that we want to deliver to the market. It's just the first version, so I'm not sure how you are familiar with the startup mindset, but you put something there, you try, right? You put the first MVP in front of a potential user. So that's what we were doing. So we have a very nice list of design partners, you know, prospects and also other service providers from legal professions and associations, which are a very important pillar of this work, right? So they do a lot of content. They do kind of this education process. So we are partnering with some of them global-wise. So we are actually very, very in the urge of launching the tool.
Oh, great! So it's happening. It's happening right now.
It is, yeah. And I'm super happy to have the support of a lot of very nice companies, and the companies that I am today advising, like I told you, Fireblocks, Taxbit, and Mercado Bitcoin, and also many other design partners, important names. This journey is being very different from Compliasset, which Dan and I we bootstrap. Bootstrapping is building organically. So we built this between us two and a CTO that was with us since the beginning and are still there in Compliasset. But with Regdor, we are doing this more kind of because it's a global company, the AI components are super heavy, so it's kind of a deep tech thing. It's more complex, and the go-to-market is also more complex. And we are really enjoying to do this journey shared with angel investors and probably VCs as well. So it's going to be a more, I would say, joint process of creation.
Yes, and you have the trust of the market. They know who you are, so it's not that easy.
I like to think, yes. No,
yes,
I'm
of course.
feeling very, very blessed because I'm having a lot of vouch. Yeah, like you said, from very, very senior and knowledgeable people, smart people. All the angel investors that had committed with our pre-seed round, they are all very, very strategic. So I'm super happy.
Oh, congrats. So
thank you.
So now you are a woman in finance. You are a woman in finance, law, and technology.
I'm also a co-founder in the
yes.
I know you know that.
Yeah.
I co-founded this Brazil chapter. I now just moved to I left the position of co-chair after many, since I think 9, Paula Francini and I we brought this movement, very important, very, very beautiful community we created in Brazil, and we have more than 20,000 plus women connected within this network of 100 women in finance. It's finance, like broad aspects, right? From banks to broker dealers, capital markets, crypto. But now we thought it's now time for the next generation to come. So we just left the board
for someone.
New ladies they just took off. So, but I'm super happy and proud of this work as well in Brazil.
So great. And if you had to give an advice to young women looking to break into fintech compliance or regulatory law, and what would you say? And because do you consider that your decisive role in the acquisition of Agora by Bradesco BBI as an event that reshaped your career early on? How do you see? Tell us a bit about this, the key legal and compliance challenges in that deal, because it's so impressive. I can't believe, I still don't believe you were 26. It's amazing.
It shaped a lot in terms of giving me. It shaped a lot of my personality, right? Because it gave me.
Of course, you were young.
I was super young, and it gave me and of course the journey within Agora. So it was the first 10 years of my career. So I'm now 25 plus. I like to say maybe half of my career I was executive, and half of my career I see myself as more like entrepreneur. But in these first years, I developed a lot of resiliency, right? Because it was first a firm owned by individuals when I started at Agro Broker Dealer in the beginning of the year 2000s, and then it was acquired by a private equity, Opus Capital, and they came with a culture of meritocracy from BTG Pactual back then. So they were like former Pactual guys. So they came to, kind of we like to say, put the makeup on the bride and sell it. They want to go to IPO, but then they came to this strategic acquisition with Bradesco and BBI. And Bradesco has a very specific culture. Like I said, it was my school. I've learned a lot, but it's a company that people stay there forever. There are some people that are like normal. It's very normal to find people that are like 20 years of Bradesco. And I was 20 years plus my life. So I felt like, that yellow bird in the middle of, the
Oh my.
different scene. So it was something that helped me a lot to, understand that I have to know my stuff. And if I know my stuff and I build with this meritocracy culture, right? I was built like shaped by these people. So I was like, if I study and if I go very technical, I was always in a technical position, right? But then I have to learn how to navigate in a more corporate politics environment, especially when I became officer, right? Because then I had to report to a lot of directors in the board, and also, corporate director, both BBI, Bradesco, and the broker dealers, both Bradesco, broker dealer, and Agora. I think they are now together, but back then they're two. So it was a very, very important school for me. But I always saw myself a little out of the box, right? So in terms of culture. So that's why I think I was at some point like willing to see new things, because and I always wanted to work with Marcelo Trindade. Was my next step. But I feel like there's thinking outside of the box, like what can I do as a legal professional, as a compliance professional, that will create a difference, that will make an impact, and will solve a pain. So I started back then, but I didn't have all this concepts matured back then, right? I had a feeling. And then I saw compliance coming. Then I went to the US and brought ACA, and all this helped again shaping all these ideas for me to actually build the first tool. But I feel like I haven't seen myself as I will do a company because I don't like to work for a corporation, or I don't like to have. Sometimes you see like people say, I will be my thing because I don't like to have a boss. No,
you're moved by your purpose.
Exactly. By finding the pain, and very connected to this technical regulatory insights, and so I feel like my message for the people that are thinking about in doing some entrepreneurial movement is that that's a beautiful movement, but you cannot be motivated by a route of a scalp route, right? It's not something that, I'm not made for the corporate market because I don't like to have a boss. You always have a boss. You either have your client as a boss, or your investor as a boss. So I mean, it's always a matter of serving someone and some purpose. So I guess my message would be like, find your purpose. What do you like to do? What make you happy? And more important, like as important as making you happy, what do you do well, right? Like what can you deliver in terms of your skills and your talents that you can, because otherwise I feel like the entrepreneurial route will be very hard. If you feel like, I want to do something that it's more flexible, it's nothing but flexible, right? It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of challenge, and you have to have a lot of resilience. So to answer your question, I think, yes, my first movement in Bradesco helped me a lot with this resilience. That was very important for this movement, entrepreneurial movement, because you're going to hear a lot of no's, a lot of no's. So
Mhm.
not be like frustrated and say, oh yeah, so life is very unfair. Life is unfair, and you have to go and continue doing your stuff if you believe on that, right? So I think that was my main learn from my first years of my career.
Wow, that's both inspiring and eye-opening. It's very interesting.
Amazing.
Now,
I'm
so
happy that you like it.
yes, I loved it.
Hope we can help this
Yes,
younger the
I
lawyers.
believe many of from our audience, they are going to be they have to listen to this once, twice, and many times as it takes for them to understand and to let it sink in. So the rise of digital assets and regulatory challenges. So your current work with Fireblocks, Taxbit, and 2TM places you at the forefront of the digital asset industry, right?
Yeah.
So given the rapidly evolving regulatory landscape, what are the biggest, I would say, challenges that you see for crypto compliance today, both in Brazil and globally? I know that it's only one thing, but culture matters, right?
Oh no, totally. And I think I think the answer to that is I think I've alluded to that in some answers before, which is like keeping track of all these regulations that
you did
right, that you need to be ahead of. So it's not only understanding the regulation that are into place right now, but the regulatory trends that are coming, like the upcoming regs, right? Because that's going to shape the business. So if you're working to a corporation and here regulation is not something that you can see afterwards, right? You have to see beforehand, because that's a go or non-go depending on your business and depending on how the regulation of the countries that specific country is in terms of like stage and in terms of specifics. So it's actually something very strategic right now for businesses. And the challenge of being ahead of this regulatory trends global wise, it's very hard, right? So you gotta have like either like team, technologies, tools, and count on is relevant stakeholders, external partners, associations. So you gotta build your network and your way to navigate on this. So I think that's the main challenge on the regulatory side. And actual, of course, the different interpretations on the concept. So some countries like will define virtual assets, crypto assets, relevant crypto assets, depending on the regulatory body. So it can be very tricky to kind of harmonize this for one organization to fulfill all these compliance requirements.
Yes, because it's so interesting because crypto compliance isn't just about ticking regulatory boxes anymore, because we used to tick boxes when we talk about we speak about compliance, and it's about building trust, ensuring stability, and ultimately defining how the industry matures. And with the pace of change, keeping up with all of this must feel like running a marathon.
I think you put it very well. You put it very well. And it's exactly, and it's not black and white, like you said. And also, one mistake can damage your business in a way that it's, you build, like you take it like 5 years to build it and you 5 minutes to destroy it. So it's super strategic, and I feel like firms are realizing that, and it's very common to see some firms downsizing for other areas, but not doing that for regulatory and compliance teams. There are normal, like very kind of small teams within the organizations, but I think you see the trend of this being growing as we speak, right? So I think it's a nice also for this young lawyers that are listening to us. I would say probably like I saw the compliance market 20 years ago, a very kind of a booming and strategic market for you guys to be, specializing in.
Yeah, and just I'm so sorry. We are at the we have to. I'm afraid we have to wrap things up in a few minutes. But looking ahead, how do you envision the regulatory framework for digital assets evolving? I would say in the next 5 years, in the next 5 days, I would say in the next 5 weeks. Because do you see Brazil as not as a leader, but what role do legal and compliance professionals have in shaping the future of this industry? Because you are a living example of that. So
yeah, no, I feel like there's a question about like the crystal ball, right? The exercise. I think but we can use the history, right? The past to try to make some assumptions for the future. And I definitely feel like and again, that speaks a lot to my thesis in Regdor. The future of digital assets is regulated, right? So that's for sure. That's more than a trend. That's a reality. And like you said, it's like not 5 years from now. It's 5 minutes, and like we are speaking now, and regulations are coming. I told you like last week in Argentina, probably beginning of this month, next month in Brazil, it will come the final regs. Europe is already in force. US with this new administration, they are building the digital assets regulation. So Middle East is already there. APAC was one of the first regions to move with regulations. Most of APAC countries, Asia Pacific countries are in advance. So, and what I can tell you about regulation in Brazil is that, yes, we can say Brazil is the leader for LATAM, that's for sure. Our proposed rules, right, the draft that came out, they're very good in terms of trying to balance the regulatory concerns and investor protections and all the like mandates that regulators need to fill, but to fulfill, but also not preventing innovation. So it's not overly prohibitive. I feel like we found a kind of of course there's always room for improvement, and that's just the first just the first step. But I feel like both Brazilian Central Bank and CVM did a great job in terms of educating their staff. They did a lot of studies before. They didn't went very quickly and to come with a regulation just to reply or to response for a market demand, right? Because at some point firms were like, oh, yeah, no, we don't want regulations because regulations are against the crypto ethos, blah, blah. But now you see the market actually demanding clarity from regulators, because it actually brings in more for safety, a security environment for everyone, for themselves as providers and for their clients. So I feel like we had a very mature posture. We've seen a very mature posture from our regulators in terms of balancing all this and coming in the right time with a robust but not overly prohibitive regulation. That's how
and it seems like a regulation has moved from reactive to proactive, and we have to more or less to take advantage of that. So
I agree with that view. But not in our countries, okay? That depends on the country. That's approach is very different from
maybe moving
regulator,
to,
but that's true in Brazil.
Okay, right, okay. Wow. So it will be fascinating to see how it plays out from now on. And
yes, let's do this another like into 1 year from now and see how
1 year, 6 months. Yes, that will be amazing. I would love to have you here again. Nicole, your journey is proof that being ahead of the curve isn't just about knowledge. It's about vision, adaptability, and the courage to step into uncharted territory, because that's what you are doing every day. Right?
I really So very
Oh,
thankful for your words and your kindness.
no, we are so happy
Your
to have you
energy as
here.
well, Marina. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. No, it's because it's contagious from you. It comes from you. And
And also I'd like to put myself available for, you know, the people who are listening to us, and my social media, LinkedIn and Instagram, available for people who want to chat. I am happy to help the way I can.
oh, that's great. That's great. So if there's one takeaway from today's conversation, guys, so it's this. The legal world is constantly evolving, and those who dare to challenge the status quo and who see regulation not as a roadblock, but as a space for innovation, those are the ones who will drive real change. So this is for you, Nicole. Let's take inspiration from Nicole's story and keep stretching on our own boundaries. So guys, Nicole, again, thank you so much. Thank you. It's wonderful.
It's for
And
you.
thank you all for tuning in, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marina. Bye-bye.